inside Enterprise Center here in St. Louis. John Cena has retained the undisputed WWE Championship. He did not do it with what I would call class, but he remains champion after a chaotic match against Randy Orton. You know, we came into Backlash, guys, talking about one last time. I knew it would be a hectic match. I knew it would be competitive. I knew it would be emotional and violent. I don't know if I expected what we just saw. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Backlash post show. Jackie Redmond alongside Peter Rosenberg and Big E. Randy Orton all but had his 15th world title won. I mean, the crowd chanted to 12, my dudes. 12. He had it won. What he did not have was a referee to make it official.
Well, yeah, if we only had 4 or 5 more referees readily available, we could have a new champ. But, I mean, Orton did everything. He got the opportunity. You said John Cena didn't do it with class. That's not what this run has been about.
No, not at all. I didn't think that we'd see Dwayne. I thought maybe we'd see Travis. But turns out there was another rapper that we didn't account for, R-Truth. And, yeah, I don't think that John Cena at this point in his career can get it done without the shenanigans, without the ref bumps, without
the low blows,
the rappers, the low blows. But this formula is working for him, and he is leaving St. Louis for the very last time as world champion.
If John Cena has one fan left, R-Truth is him, evidently helping John Cena retain the championship. Let's go to the highlights because there was a lot that happened in this match. I mean, Randy Orton took a lot of attitude adjustments. He delivered a lot of attitude adjustments. There was RKOs. Guys, we're watching the beginning of this match. You know, John Cena, a very different version of him that I'm still not used to, even though it's been a couple of months. But through this match, did you start to think, as things got more and more out of hand, that maybe Randy Orton could find a way to get this done?
Honestly, it felt the opposite for me. Like, it seemed like as the match went on, Orton kept getting these opportunities, but always at the most inopportune times. And I just thought, I know how this ends. And it's with dirty work from John Cena. And I can't believe, as you see, Orton delivering one of the RKOs to Cena. I can't believe, that's the John Cena we're talking about now. But that's who this man is.
That's where he is at this stage in his career. Look, if we had a clean match, I thought Randy had this in the bag. Seeing the way the people, his hometown of St. Louis, supported him, they were behind him. He seemed buoyed by that. And look, I feel like we got to see something that Michael Cole loves to call vintage Randy Orton. We saw the stomps. We saw the setup for the punt kick. We saw Randy at his prime. It felt very much like a blast to 15, 20 years ago. But unfortunately, Randy, as good as he looked, wasn't able to get it done tonight.
And give my man Eddie Arango his props, by the way. That run to the ring, he almost was there in time.
He's an athlete.
He's an athlete, but it was not in time. And there it is again. Is this the time when they counted to 12?
They counted to 12. I counted with them. I wrote it down so I wouldn't mess it up. The crowd counts to 12. It's not enough. You know, WWE security and staff come out to try to get things under control. And listen, Randy Orton is not a man you control. That's the thing.
Here's my favorite one, Hurricane. Boom.
Poor Hurricane.
Davari, everybody's catching one.
It was raining down RKOs here inside Enterprise Center.
What did JD Noble do?
Nothing, not a thing. And Randy was on fire right now. I thought he was going to really be bullied by the crowd. And I did not expect this moment where R-Truth slides in and stops Randy.
Pleading with him, pleading. RKO.
Deserved, though. Very much deserved.
And not particularly out of nowhere.
No, yeah, exactly. That was more right in your face, yes. More so than out of nowhere.
And then here comes the low blow, unfortunately, that really
listen,
killed the time.
We could argue that at this stage in their careers, physically, Randy Orton is the better wrestler than John Cena right now.
I'd agree.
But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. That title to the head will do it every single time. And, of course, that's right when Chad Patton comes to, and you know what's next.
Yes, you do. It is the 1 to the 2 to the 3. Randy Orton defeated by John Cena in his hometown. You know, we talked on the pre-show about the history between these two superstars and how weird it is to be living in a time where John Cena is facing Randy Orton. Randy Orton's being cheered. John Cena's being booed. Like, I don't know that I ever thought I would see the day where that happened, but there it is. John Cena with his 17 world titles, the most in WWE history, but Randy Orton is right behind him, nipping at his heels with 14. He could have had his 15th tonight, and I think in the minds of most, probably deserved it.
No, he absolutely did. I thought he had a stellar performance. I thought he looked sharp. We saw the Randy Orton that we know and love with the stomps, with the attempted punt kick. Randy looked incredible. He looked in amazing shape as well. But unfortunately, once again, when you have all these things thrown your way, and look, obviously, you know, R-Truth is on record for saying he's a big John Cena fan. He grew up watching him somehow, despite being older than John. Not sure how that math works. But I also know the kinship between Randy and R-Truth. There's a real brotherhood as well. So I can't imagine how Randy felt in that moment.
I want to ask you guys a question, and it's a hard one to ask when you look at the entire career of John Cena, right? Because for a long time, he really did stand for hustle, loyalty, and respect. He was the definition of a great role model, a great WWE superstar, someone that kids can look up to. You look at what he's done, not just tonight to defeat Randy Orton, but over the last couple of months to make history, to really officially cement himself as the greatest of all time. How much do his tactics, for you, just personally, tarnish some of his legacy and the way that you will look back at John Cena and his reign?
Well, it's not pretty to say this.
It's a hard question, right?
Well, especially because of my answer. I think it helps the legacy of John Cena.
What?
So?
Yeah, because I wanted to see the full range of John Cena. I am one of those people who at times had a little let's go Cena. Cena sucks. You know what I mean? I did have the period of Super Cena where I was like, I want to see a different version of this guy. Now, did I think he would become this dastardly and like literally do anything? No, I didn't. But the proof is in the pudding. We just showed a list of some of the greatest names ever, okay? Ric Flair, Triple H, Randy Orton, Hulk Hogan. The name on top is John Cena.
But you don't think he could have gotten there by continuing to be what he's been for
Was it
2
working?
decades?
Jackie, was it working for the last 5 years? The man hadn't had a singles win in how long?
No, what do we say, 6 years at one point? It was incredible. Look, we're talking about a guy who has losses at WrestleMania. He lost to Austin Theory. He lost to Solo Sikoa. Like you said, we haven't seen him win a singles, and I'm not taking anything away from those guys, but like you said, the drought had been so long. I think you're right. I think John realized at this point in his career, and look, he's someone who also has so many things, so many plates on his table. He's juggling so much. I'm not sure he's his sharpest. At his age, with his schedule, this is not the sharpest version of John Cena, and I think he realized that. I think he saw that he could use a little help, a little assistance to get the job done.
So you guys believe that it was a necessary evil, so to speak, to get to the top? It was almost a necessary, because I disagree. I think John Cena and what he has proven over and over again in his career, that eventually he could, through hard work and dedication, could have reached the mountaintop without sacrificing.
To Rosenberg's point, when's the last time we saw it?
I know, but that doesn't mean droughts don't last forever.
I know, but
droughts don't last forever.
But the problem is, Jackie, when you get to a certain age, and obviously you're maybe the #1 reporter in the entire NHL, you know this. Most people aren't Alex Ovechkin. Most people aren't hitting 40. LeBron James, 40, 41,
but John
42.
Cena is supposed to be that guy
But
that
he
can
had
do
been.
it at the end of his career.
But it's also not just the age in this point in his career. But look, this man is shooting Peacemaker. He's shooting movies. We talked about him. He talked about going, he was in Europe, flying out. He doesn't have the time to dedicate to this, where Randy has said, I don't care about Hollywood. I don't care about being elsewhere. This is my craft. This is what I focus on. I'm in the gym. I am wrestling weekly. This is a very sharp version of Randy Orton. John Cena has way too many distractions. This is not his only thing right now, and I think he understands that.
All right. Well, we can talk about John Cena's legacy all we want until his career is officially done and we can look at it in hindsight. We never really know how we'll feel in 10, 15 years. And it might be Randy Orton at the top of that list in a few years if he continues to wrestle for as long as he says that he wants to. But it was not his night tonight. By the way, we are going to bring you to the press conference as it begins. We will hear from Triple H. We'll get to Big E's 5 counts on the night. Lots to come. Byron Saxton is backstage. We'll check in with him as well. But the main event, not, of course, the only match on tonight's card. We also had Pat McAfee walking into the ring with one of the most dominant superstars we've ever seen in WWE, in the ring general, Gunther. And Pat McAfee doing this in honor of his best friend, Michael Cole.
Look, I was surprised by this. Seeing Cole get up, I think the fans were solely behind him. This was really a performance about heart from Pat, seeing him dig in time and time again. There are times, so many times during this match, I thought he was going to tap out. You see the elbows here as Gunther is staring Cole in the face.
Let me ask you a question, though. Was this about Pat McAfee's toughness, or was Gunther sort of toying with Pat McAfee, or is it somewhere in the middle?
I think it's a bit of both. This was not the sharpest Gunther we've seen. I thought that he thought he could stroll in here and easily hand Pat a butt whooping of his lifetime, an ass whooping of his lifetime, and that would be that. I don't think he took Pat as seriously as he should have.
Can you believe Michael Cole, though, hitting the Bobby Heenan-like grab the foot? I never thought I'd see that.
I didn't expect that either.
Well, listen, what we can say about Pat McAfee is got a lot of respect for him sticking up for his friend, Michael Cole, the way that he did tonight, and having the guts just to step into the ring with someone like Gunther, I think takes a lot. You can see Michael Cole. I only laugh because that's going to be a meme probably for a very long time, but
yeah, he may have felt somewhat responsible also for what was happening to Pat. In that
yeah, he mentioned it a few times on commentary, right? Like, Pat's in this situation in large part because of me. But let's go backstage to Byron Saxton with an update on Pat McAfee.
Yeah, guys, when we found out Pat McAfee was going one-on-one with Gunther, the former World Heavyweight Champion, one of the most dominant superstars in WWE, we didn't expect a positive outcome for Pat. But what we saw in that ring was a man full of grit and heart who held his own against the ring general. Now, I spoke to Pat very briefly. He was getting tended to by our medical staff. He wasn't in great shape, but he kept saying, "I'm good. I'm good." And let's not get it twisted. It wasn't because he was good physically, but he was good here, and he was good here. Because Pat knew this wasn't about going out there and pinning the shoulders of Gunther. It was about teaching Gunther that you can't just go pushing around or bullying whoever you want. And at the end of that match, for Gunther to kind of give Pat that nod of respect, that's all he wanted. So yes, the record books will say Backlash 2025, Gunther defeated Pat McAfee. But honestly, Pat McAfee feels like he won tonight because he earned the respect of the ring general.
Byron, thank you so much. I'll turn to you, right, as a member of the WWE locker room for a long time. We talk about this not being about, we hear Byron talk about this not being about pinning Gunther for Pat McAfee. It's about proving a point. How much respect does someone like Pat McAfee gain inside the WWE locker room with guys who actually wrestle in that ring night in and night out for doing what he did tonight?
I think Pat has earned a lot of respect, not just tonight, but over the years. He's someone who has stepped in the ring. This is not easy. And I think sometimes you have people from outside who come in and they don't give it their all. They're just here for a paycheck, and that's very clear. I think Pat's passion is very evident. And when you see someone like putting your body on the line, what we do, obviously, as I know, comes with some very real risks. And if you're going to be in the ring with someone like Gunther, you are truly putting your body on the line. It's something I mentioned many times in the pre-show and the countdown earlier. I talked about the fact that, like, I was seriously worried for Pat. I was worried. You know, he has a wife, he has a young daughter, he has so many other things going on in his life, and being in the ring with someone like Gunther, you don't know if you're going to walk out in good condition. And Pat, fortunately, unfortunately, he lost the match, but fortunately, he was able to walk out in one piece. And I think the fact that he gave his all, the fact that he was in there with Gunther and didn't quit when he could have quit, there were so many opportunities where he had an out that he easily could have taken, and he didn't.
No, listen, I had the exact same thought. You know, I have a new daughter. Pat has a young daughter. Listen, he won't have a great day tomorrow, but he'll get to see his wife and his daughter and celebrate Mother's Day. Even if he's laid up a little bit and is getting iced, he survived the night. As much as the respect from Gunther matters, I think for Pat it was about defending his friend's honor and, frankly, making it home to his family, which is all you can hope to do with a guy like Gunther.
And if you're just joining us, we just heard from Byron Saxton. He did speak to Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee's quote was, "I'm good." I think more mentally than physically. No word yet on if Pat McAfee will be on commentary on Monday Night Raw or not. I guess we'll wait to find out if he will be good enough to join Michael Cole on commentary in Louisville on Monday. All right, elsewhere, Jacob Fatu retains the United States Championship
You know what I mean?
in a fatal four-way match. He got by with a little help, though I don't think he wanted it, guys.
Not at all. We saw the debut of a man once referred to as Jeff Cobb. Not entirely sure of what he'll be referred to now. But also, we saw, like the we alluded to on the pre-show, would Damian and the rivalry with Drew, would that interfere with their ability to win this match? And it did. It was a distraction.
Clearly, Drew was very, Damian was very focused on Drew. And obviously you see LA Knight getting the short end of the stick here. Solo Sikoa, this is what's gonna be interesting as you see Jeff Cobb. This is what's gonna be interesting. Solo Sikoa clearly made a decision about how he wanted things to go. And you could see that Jacob Fatu was not pleased. He took advantage, he did what he had to do, he scored the pin, but he did not want to do it that way.
No, and we heard from Jacob Fatu on SmackDown, right? Him and Solo Sikoa had a conversation. What's the game plan? Jacob Fatu was very animated and very clear. The only play I want to make is I'm going to walk some dogs tomorrow. I'm all gas, no brakes. That's my play. That's all I need. Clearly, to your point, Rosenberg, Solo Sikoa went and made other plans, seemingly without informing Jacob Fatu. But regardless of how this came to be, he does retain the United States Championship in a fatal four-way match.
But look at that. Look at that.
LA Knight. But this is where the confusion comes into play. Jacob Fatu looks confused. He looks like he's not quite sure what he makes of it just yet. But it's very clear that Solo Sikoa knew exactly what he was doing, bringing someone else into the fold. So Jacob Fatu, still our United States champion. He has been champion for 21 days. We're about to hear from him in the press conference. I'll be curious to see what he has to say about Solo Sikoa's decisions going into this match. Here he is.
Let's welcome the winner of the fatal four-way match tonight at Backlash and still United States champion, Jacob Fatu. We're going to start off with our first question. For Jacob, right-hand side, front row.
Hi, Steve Fall from 10 Count Media. Jacob, congratulations. What were your thoughts on seeing Jeff Cobb come out there, because it seemed like you didn't really like that?
You seen the look on my face? You seen the look on my face. There's nothing that I could explain. There's nothing I could say, even if I wanted to. So at the end of the day, you know, we still just trying to figure everything out.
Hi, Alex Lajas from Instinct Culture. Congratulations on retaining your championship, of course, and an amazing show out just tonight in general, hearing the crowd. Have you had any time, especially after WrestleMania and even a little bit tonight, to process how far you've come in your career?
Every day. Every day when I wake up, I'm thankful for it, you know? So it's more than just accomplishing things. I think it ain't how you start, it's how you finish. But just every day, we taking it day at a time. Day at a time, and to keep it 100, I feel like we ain't even done nothing yet at the end of the day. So, just like what I said last month, I think we're just now getting started.
Left side, fourth row.
DC Hendricks here from Body Slam. Jacob, your first big title defense on the big PLE, your first Backlash. Just want to know what's next for you, man. It's a good start, but what's the next on that agenda?
I think you just got your answer right there. What's next is just like what I said earlier. It's just day at a time with it, you know? I to come here aiming for this just happened organically, but honestly, there's no telling, you know? Gentleman here asked about the first question about what happened tonight. I mean, I'm just gonna tell you guys all the same thing, you know? You guys are just gonna have to wait and see, because I can't speak on it if I don't know nothing about it. So, been a hell of a ride, but I'm just like what you guys are seeing right now. You know, we're just all gonna have to see how everything rides out at the end of the day.
Last question.
Alicia McPherson here for Fox 2 and St. Louis 11. Question for you, Jacob. You've said you're all gas, no brakes. Is this a speed bump?
Ooh, that was a good one right there. Okay. My whole life has been a speed bump. This is exactly why I say I'm all gas, no brakes with it. And that's a Northern California term, if you guys want to be exact. To be clear, I'm from Northern California. And, like I said, my whole life's been a speed bump. And we just still going, and we got to get in where we fit in at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So overall, thank you guys for having me. Love and respect, all right?
Thank you, Jacob.
So that was Jacob Fatu, who retains the United States Championship tonight after a fatal four-way match that saw him pin LA Knight. It was one of 5 matches on tonight's card here at Backlash in St. Louis. Elsewhere, the Intercontinental Champion, Dominic Mysterio, was in action against Penta. He was able to retain that Intercontinental Championship. He is still holding the IC title, and he's got it with him here on the panel as Dominic Mysterio joins us here on the Backlash post show. Congratulations, Dom, on retaining your Intercontinental Championship. You've very quickly, there you go. They needed a cue from Rosenberg. They needed a cue.
Champion is in our midst.
Dom, you very quickly referred to yourself as the best Intercontinental Champion of all time, about 30 minutes after winning that for the first time. So I'll start with this. What do you think makes you the best Intercontinental Champion of all time?
I mean, it speaks for itself. Are you kidding me?
Does it?
I went from getting hated and booed out of arenas for the past 3 years, and now something changed. But not this guy. I always knew I was the greatest Mysterio of all time. I always knew that once I had gold, I was going to be the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
You know what? Why don't you show us the highlights and show us exactly how great? Let's take a
I'll
look.
walk
How were you able to get it done
I'll
tonight?
give you a
Let's have
play-by-play.
Dom call it.
Please do.
That's Papa Smurf,
Okay.
and then that's your boy Dirty Dom, the champ.
But you ate
On your back.
No, but Papa Smurf, he's top heavy, So
Top heavy.
then here's the boys. Here's the boys. My
think
stepdad
Finn made a mistake there?
No. My stepdad Finn with the Daddy Dom shirt,
There you go.
and then referee Eddie Urengo had I don't know. He had a rough night there.
Yeah, it got worse as the night went on, too.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this.
No, nothing.
I don't recall any of this.
So far, I don't see you becoming the greatest commentator of all time.
Yeah,
To be honest, you're not going to be Michael Cole, all right?
Well,
Did you see that?
Michael Cole sucks. Of course I saw that. Are you kidding me? That was El Grande Americano, right? Here I come. Greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Splash.
Dirty Dom. Frog splash.
Wait, did you work that out with Grande America?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, did you guys sit down and talk about things before?
About what?
You and
Well, because you can see right there, Grande Americano looks very satisfied with himself.
Oh, I didn't see him down there.
I thought you said you saw him.
Oh, what? I don't recall that.
You don't recall. I have a
He doesn't
question.
recall a lot.
Yeah, a lot of mental issues. I have a question. Do you ever plan on doing this without assistance
What are you talking about?
in your matches? Do you ever plan on just wrestling 1v1?
Well, if you look in the ring, who was in there? It was just me and Penta, right?
That was it.
Correct. So, what
You
do
didn't
you
see
mean?
anyone else?
Inside the ring, I did not see anybody else other than Penta, myself, and the referee.
What about
And
the other players on the floor?
What
who
were the
involved?
final results, though?
You
Final
won.
results.
You won.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You retained your
Thank you.
Continental Champion.
Greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Well, let me ask you this then, Dom. At the start of this conversation, you said, you went from being booed for 3 years to being cheered. Do you like the attention that you are now getting from the WWE Universe? How do you feel about being cheered?
Honestly, the only attention I need is from my güerita. And honestly, I got here without him. I don't need him. And
You don't need the fans.
the only thing I need is my family, the Judgment Day, and my güerita, and this Intercontinental Championship. That, I just so happen to be the greatest Intercontinental Champion.
Was there a chance that Liv reached out to you at all? Did you guys have any
Of course.
communication?
Yeah, she texted me today.
What'd she
said
say?
she said good luck.
Wow.
Why wasn't she here? Just curious.
Because she's busy filming a movie. Are you kidding
Well,
me?
I just
man?
thought
You haven't read
maybe-
online?
Have you been living
Of
under
course
a
I have,
rock?
But you guys, I assume, have
sorry,
Are you
private
Patrick
jets.
Starr living under a rock this whole time?
No, I know that she's doing movies. I just thought maybe she would have made time to come here and support you in
You
your,
know,
in
I
your
told
title
her
defense.
I told her not to worry about it. She has big things right now going on, and I
Okay.
told her I was going to take care of business.
Fair.
And Daddy Dom took care of business.
Did you buy yourself a new Intercontinental watch, by the way, after you won the title?
Come on now.
'Cause that's looking very shiny.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That is very, very. Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you know,
good for you,
gold,
man.
gold with some gold.
Gold with some gold.
Big ups to you. Yeah, nothing on the wrist. Look, you and Penta have exchanged some words. Is this the end for you two, or?
I mean, I hope so. I've beat the guy 3 times already, right? I beat him at WrestleMania. I beat him the night after Mania, right? And then what happened today? I beat him
You got
again.
the W.
I'm 3 for 3 at this guy.
And you're also still going with the greatest Mysterio of all time.
Of course, I am the greatest living Mysterio of all time. What did that deadbeat do at WrestleMania?
He had world championships though in his.
He was hurt,
resume.
so he missed WrestleMania.
Oh, that's right. So there was only one Mysterio that shined, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm hearing we're out of time, but once again, congratulations to you, Dominic Mysterio, on retaining your Intercontinental Championship. Congratulations, sir.
Thanks for the time, Dom.
Appreciate you, always.
Appreciate it.
Well done.
Enjoy your chicken fingers. Appreciate it.
Tendies. The tendies.
Your tendies. All right, let's get to our women's Intercontinental Champion. She was also in action here at Backlash tonight, defending against the likes of Becky Lynch. And as we take a look at the highlights, I mean, this was a battle between both of these superstars. Lyra Valkyria would end up retaining her title, but man, did she have to earn it, E.
Absolutely. Look, we see the exposed turnbuckle, which could have been the end for Lyra. Here is the manhandle slam, which she was able to get out of. Look, Rosenberg, I was so impressed with Lyra's performance here tonight.
I was going to say, there's so many things to like leave tonight thinking and talking about with McAfee's performance, of course, and John Cena. And let's not leave this night not talking about the bravery of Lyra Valkyria. What she did fighting through the end of this match, again, just like with John Cena, the tactics we see from Becky Lynch, but it wasn't enough, and you see right there, she's holding her nose in intense pain, but she scores the victory.
And what did you say about that main event? You said as it went on, you started to worry for Randy Orton, this isn't gonna end well. Had the same feeling for Lyra Valkyria as well, but she's able to get the W. Becky obviously did not take the L well.
Look, I just wonder what condition she's going to be in. Her arm, I don't know if it was her nose as well. I think Lyra's going to be really beat up, but I hope she's extremely proud of her performance here tonight, and she retains her Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be alongside Lyra for many of her big moments since joining the main roster. I was there when she was drafted. She was shocked and surprised. I was there when she won her first match on Raw. I was there when she competed in Queen of the Ring. I was there when she won the Intercontinental Tournament to become the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion, and I've been with her at every PLE that she's competed in. She is really, really genuine when she says she wants to be a fighting champion. That title means something to her. She wears it and carries it with a lot of honor, and she's not afraid of anybody. Like, that is the thing about Lyra, right? Like, we haven't really heard from her vocally until the last couple of weeks, and I'm really starting to see that confidence sort of grow and grow and grow. And I'm telling you, this girl in the ring is not afraid to go toe-to-toe with anyone, and she's proven it now.
But what I love about that is one of the criticisms I had heard of Lyra Valkyria is, who is she exactly? We know she's talented. We know she can kick butt in the ring. We know all these things. But who is she? And what I think we've really learned since WrestleMania and over the last 4 to 6 weeks is who Lyra Valkyria is as a person. I think tonight
she's a badass.
She might be in a lot of pain. She might be holding ice on her face all night. But tonight was a huge win, not only because she defended the title, but because of what she showed to the WWE Universe.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes it takes a while to get comfortable on the main roster. You're now swimming with a lot of very big sharks. And I think we have a lot of conversations about the top women in this company. We need to have more conversations about Lyra being right there with some of the very best women in this company.
And she's beaten some of the very best women in this company, right? That's the second time she's beaten Becky Lynch with a title on the line. She's beaten Bayley. She's beaten Io Sky. I mean, her resume speaks for itself, and she's just getting started. I'm hearing Paul Triple H Levesque is set to address the media. We take you there now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Content Officer of WWE, Paul Triple H Levesque.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I want to thank Enterprise Arena for hosting us here tonight. Always amazing partners. Whenever I'm in this building, there's always a moment when I walk down the hallway when I first get here where I'm expecting to see Harley come around the corner and greet me. But unfortunately, we don't get to do that anymore. But it always makes me smile when I get here. So I thought we had a great night tonight. St. Louis came out, as they always do, sold out here, 17,155 to watch their hometown boy, Randy Orton, go to work, which is always funny that no matter how long you've been doing this and how amazing you are at it and you get to this legendary status like Randy Orton has, there's always a doubt in your mind. And when you're stepping in with a legend to the degree of John Cena, I think it's there even more. And I think Randy had a little bit of a moment this afternoon where he was thinking, boy, I hope they don't boo me in my own hometown. And it was far from that. It was incredible to see him walk out there and receive the pop that he did, the ovation that he did, and same for John. Just an amazing night. Early read on viewership, extremely strong. This was the highest grossing domestic backlash in WWE history. Just hard to believe that WrestleMania was only 3 weeks ago. It feels like it was a lifetime ago. But here we go. Thoughts on the show? You know, probably going to say the same thing here a bunch of times. Jacob, Damian, Drew, LA Knight was incredible. What a performance they all put on. Luckily, everybody is healthy. I think Priest's got a tooth that he's hoping will stay inside of his head for a couple of days here and get solid again. But other than that, Drew McIntyre, a little banged up, but totally fine. So really happy that turned out the way it did. Becky and Lyra was incredible. Lyra Valkyria just continues to rise and show that she belongs here and in the ring with somebody like Becky Lynch. That was one of the greatest matches, just women's matches, but it was one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. So I was very proud of the two of them. They really excelled. Dom and Penta doing what they do. When Dom's involved, it's always dirty. So, you get what you get, but it was incredible. Gunther, Pat. First of all, my hat's off to Gunther for what he does. Just sort of an old throwback brute in the ring, just gets the most out of every single thing that he does. And when it comes to Pat McAfee, Pat is just, it's hard for me to put into words how big of a star he is. But yet he's just Pat McAfee. It's been one of the things I marvel at him about since the first time I met him, which was, early NXT, and he's just one of those incredible people that has this amazing presence, aura, where he can just go out there and be himself, and the whole world wants to listen to him. He does it on his show every day. He does it with us. He's just an incredible talent. And then when you add on top of the massive star that he is across of that, the athlete that he is, just at a different level, to be able to do the things he has done in sports, things that he was never a part of. He didn't start out wanting to be an NFL player, one of the best punters in history, didn't come here with the sole intent of being a WWE superstar. To a degree he did, but just does all of it and does it so seemingly effortlessly. He is truly, when we say that, there are certain people that are fixtures in WWE that just so fit into what we do. It's hard to imagine them not being here. Pat is one of those people. And just everything he does, he puts his heart and soul into it, and he's incredible at it. And we're incredibly proud of him and honored that that he chooses to be with WWE because he doesn't have to, and he doesn't have to get in the ring, and he doesn't have to do a lot of the things he does, but he does, and it's greatly appreciated. So we're on a hell of a run right now that continues. Like I said, just coming off of WrestleMania 3 weeks ago, 2 nights of WrestleMania, being here for Backlash tonight, May 24th, so in just a few weeks, Saturday night's main event from Tampa live on NBC nationwide. Saturday, June 7th, shortly thereafter that, a massive 2-day event in LA. Or 2 events in 1 day, I should say, in LA with Money in the Bank from the Intuit Dome and Worlds Collide with AAA at the Kia Forum. Saturday, June 28th, so just shortly after that, Night of Champions from Riyadh overseas. August 2nd and 3rd, 2 nights of SummerSlam at MetLife Stadium. August 31st, Clash of Paris. It's nonstop. It's one right after the other right now. It's going to be a hell of a summer. I'm excited for it, and I just feel like we have a ton of momentum that we will ride through the summer here, and just love where we are. So I'm gonna open it up to you guys.
First question, left-hand side, front row.
Joe Roderick with Sports Hub STL. You guys were here in 2022 for the Rumble, tonight with the hometown guy, Randy Orton, in the main event. What is it about St. Louis that keeps you guys coming back with these big events?
Oh, man. I think you heard it tonight, 17,000 people that were just never sat down, never were not screaming at the top of their lungs. That's what we look for. You know, when you can get that type of reaction, there's such a history here. You know, you go back, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. St. Louis has always been an incredible city. One of my, you'll hear a lot of talent talk about over the years, and I think maybe I'm more aware of it because in my era we all talked about the, Madison Square Garden. We all talk about Chicago. St. Louis is right there. Always been one of my favorite cities to come to, and that's no different today. So, as long as they are loud, everybody is loud and doing what they did here tonight. We will be coming back again and again. Thrilled to be here.
Hello, Steve Fall from 10 Count Media. How you doing? Backlash St. Louis. How important was it for you to have John Cena on his last run this year fight Randy Orton here in St. Louis as a wrestling historian one last time? Must have been very important to you as well.
Absolutely. Certain rivalries, and you can look at it however you want because of chemistry or career length or whatever it is, but when you see moments in time like this with John Cena and Randy Orton coming up together in OVW, right? Like almost 25 years ago had their first match together. And then you look at the years since then, over those 25 years, main event after main event, pay-per-view after pay-per-view, television show after television show, live event after live event. And, for me, I was fortunate enough to be there as they were both sort of coming in the door. And I was able to sit there and watch them do that from 2001 forward all the way to today. I've seen a lot of that. I don't know that I've ever seen one that I thought like, you know what I mean? Ever. It's just that level of talent between the two of them. They have an incredible chemistry. They just know each other inside and out. And when that happens, you get what you get here tonight, which, 25 years later, magic. Like, to me, I just watched that match for however long they went. I don't know what that was, like 40 minutes or something, right? Like, I watched the entire thing with this huge smile on my face, just so proud of both of them, so proud of the careers that they've created and the stars that they have become. Just awesome. Awesome.
Left side, third row.
How you doing? Zach Haydorn here with the Takedown on SI. I wanted to ask about the celebrity performers that you guys are using at the moment. Obviously, Pat McAfee, a big part of the show tonight. You guys announced Logan Paul versus Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event coming up. Can you talk a little bit about how and when you deploy those guys in an in-ring fashion? Like, what's the strategy behind that? And also, I'd love to hear your thoughts about McAfee specifically tonight in-ring.
So, it's funny, you mentioned a bunch of names, right? You mentioned Logan and Travis Scott, Bad Bunny, right? You can name a lot of people. I don't put Logan in that group. I don't see Logan as now this outside celebrity that came in to do what we do. He's good at this, right? And can talk, has the character, has the swagger, has all the stuff, and can perform in the ring. And, had a name and was a celebrity walking in the door, but then delivers on it in a way where he's like a full-time performer and repetitively comes back in, right? Or I don't even say back in because he's just here. So I don't see him in that celebrity vein. I just see him as an incredible performer. I look at him as full-time as I would look at anybody else. So then it's where it makes sense. As far as all those other folks, Travis, Bad Bunny, Jelly Roll, you name it, right? They're phenomenal bits and pieces of what we do. Sorry, with your permission, I'd like to make a statement. Okay. I'll answer that another time. When the greatest of all time steps on stage, you let him do his thing. And I didn't know he was going to be here, but ladies and gentlemen, still 17, John Cena.
I need to be better with you guys. I need to begin to walk the talk. And if I am the last real champion, and if I am the greatest of all time, in this little time I have left, I shouldn't patronize the people who help the reach of what we do. I should be more accepting and empathetic. In the past, I have not chosen to field any questions because I couldn't get out of my own way. So, I'm going to try to take a step in the right direction. I want to thank you all for being here. We have a pretty intimate group, so I want to make sure everyone gets the time that they have earned. I would now like to open the floor and field all questions. So please, let's take the first question.
Mona Nawaz at the One Mona. Congratulations on retaining your belt. To elaborate on being kind now. So could you tell us a little bit about your feelings about your match against Randy Orton, and if you guys shared any words just off screen behind the scenes after your match?
Where's he at? Look who's he in. I just want to say thank. I want to congratulate him. Hey, JC, John. Hey, dog. Hey, congratulations, man. I am so proud of you. I never gave up. I've always supported you. You know, we got a lot of history. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying, dog? I'm so proud of you. Even if people say you suck and can't wrestle.
Ron, that was over the line. You say one more thing, and I promise there'll be repercussions.
But I just want to tell you.
I don't even know what to say right now. We are looking at R-Truth, who has just been thrown through a table by John Cena, who moments ago sounded like somebody, as we welcome you back to the Backlash post-game panel. John Cena, I am lost for words. E, can you please speak?
I don't know who this version of John Cena is. I can't understand. Truth was there for him.
He doesn't win that match without R-Truth
No.
tonight. Are you kidding?
But sometimes you have to. I don't want to say that R-Truth doesn't always read situations well.
Please tell me you are not going to defend John Cena right now.
I'm not, but maybe, like, even though Truth loves John Cena, it probably wasn't the best time to go in and have a conversation with mid-press conference. You know what I mean? Not this version of John. This isn't hustle, loyalty, respect John Cena. This isn't. It's a different version of John Cena.
But it's
Time and place.
R-Truth.
You
It's
know?
R-Truth who just came out here in the middle of a match when John Cena had. Randy Orton had John Cena tonight multiple times. And he wins his 15th world title if R-Truth doesn't come down here and insert himself into the mix, right?
Yeah, look, he did.
And he comes. I understand. It's just like John Cena started that by seemingly wanting to do better. Is that the vibe you got from what John
I did
Cena?
not believe he was going to do better.
No,
Did you ever believe he was going to do better?
I mean, look, he said he was going to ruin wrestling. This is what do we expect from him?
By the way, I wouldn't put it past John Cena that he was like, "Hey, Truth, thanks for that. You should come out and thank me at the presser," and did it intentionally. That wouldn't shock me. Like,
I hope not.
He was not actually going to have a legitimate, in earnest conversation with the good sports media of St. Louis. That wasn't going to happen. We remember what happened at his last press conference. This is who John Cena is
Maybe I
now.
shouldn't be surprised, but when it's R-Truth.
No, listen, that last shot we just saw of poor R-Truth's legs and those jorts sticking out from the table, that's not what you want to see to end what was a great night here at Backlash.
No, it's kind of a sour end. E, I don't even know if we should do your 5 count, to be honest. I mean, we really were not expecting John Cena to be at the press conference to begin with, and then for that to happen with R-Truth.
First R-Truth and now your 5 count?
It's a
This is a terrible end to
Well,
the
I'll
night.
leave it to you, E. Do you want to do your 5 count?
Let's just let's go home.
Let's go home. All right. We can't do R-Truth like that. Listen, I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about what just happened on the Backlash post show. If you missed it, John Cena has put R-Truth through a table in the press room of all places.
Interrupted Triple H first, by the way. Let's not forget that.
The audacity. John Cena, still your your undisputed WWE champion. Thanks for watching. Next up, Monday Night Raw in Louisville. For Big E and Peter Rosenberg, I'm Jackie Redmond. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
This has been a special presentation of WWE. For over 70 years, the global leader in sports and entertainment.
Talking back, a detonator.
You are looking live at the sold-out Enterprise Center in downtown St. Louis, Missouri for WWE Backlash. What an incredible way to kick off Backlash tonight, a fatal 4-way match for the United States Championship.
All bets are off now, every man for himself. Then the money and power grows until they don't care. He's bored at work.
South to heaven choke slam.
On the highway of death, hitchhiking, yeah, I'm there. Life and death got your rival stifled.
Who the?
I'm him.
One of the biggest free agents on the planet, Jeff Cobb. Fatu looks as perplexed as the rest of us.
Pray for more. No empathy or pity for you anymore. Already in hell, formed in fire for Gulf War. The empire, we are led by them liars. Wait to fuck up right here.
Manhandle slam. Lyra Valkyria survives. Lyra got her. Becky Lynch is assaulting Valkyria.
Regulators. Michael, participant in this deadly cycle.
El Grande Americano with that loaded mask.
They try and stifle. My crew primal, backwooden psychos that's living tribal. It's smoke and mirrors, fun houses, check your sources. It's my agenda, the upender, you vampires. They stand before.
Enough of that. has left the down desk, you absolute nutcase. That is over. If this is the final time that these two ever meet, Randy Orton and John Cena will tear the house down once again. Truth, RKO, and John Cena retains the damn championship.